Welcome, everybody, to a more unique version of PhinManiacs Live tonight. I am your host, as always, Louis D. Sung, and instead of my regular co-host, who is busy doing his own thing this evening, I have Lisa Johnson of OurTurf Football, and I'm real glad to have her with us. So, how you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing fine. How you fellas doing tonight?
I'm doing...
You're doing fine.
I mean, what Dolphins fan is fine right now?
Yes, true that.
That's the craziest thing. And we're going to talk about what's wrong with the team and if we can fix it. But you know what? This just popped into my head, like literally just now. I didn't even tell you about it because I didn't tell you about it until just now.
All right.
It's kind of baffling to me that we are even in this this is the title of our show, and the Dolphins are 3-1, and this is the title of our show. And the fact that we're even having this discussion, it's honestly baffling that we have to talk about this, because any other team in the whole NFL and 3-1 would be a wonderful thing. Not so here in Miami, and that in itself is. It kind of makes my skin crawl, honestly, just thinking of ourselves as a fan base. Like, how can we not be happy with 3-1? Guarantee you, anybody who said 3-1 was going to be the Dolphins' record 4 weeks into the season, they would have laughed at you. They would have said that you were a moron. They would have been extremely happy if that happened before the season started. Yet here we are, and the exact opposite is happening.
Yes. And it's the truth. I mean, it's, I personally, you and I had the conversation before the season. I thought we would struggle the first couple of games. It seems like we're going opposite of what I said. It seems like we came out of the gate great. Now we're starting to kind of struggle. But I think what happened is we always play bad in New England. I mean, and it's like them down here, and they struggle with us down here. This is an AFC East rivalry. Records should go out the door with these games because you could, be 0-3 going into this game and we could have pulled it off. Same with them because, these teams know each other so well, but we always struggle up there. I was very scared and hesitant to post stuff on Twitter about my feelings for it because I had a lump in my throat about this game. This was the game I just honestly didn't see us winning because we never do up there. It's like they stay on the plane, and I've tweeted it out a couple times. It's like nobody played. The finger pointing that's going on, like you said right now, we got a little turmoil that happened today, and I'm sure you'll get into that with the fans here in just a minute of what's going on internally now with the Miami Dolphin organization. But this isn't a game that I think is going to end our season or blow us up. It's a game that I expected to happen because we never play well up there. I was disappointed? Yeah, because I at least thought we would be a little bit more competitive than we have been. I thought it would, at least maybe come down to the fourth quarter. And if we lost it, that's just our luck up there. But the way we lost it is disappointing to me, Louis. I mean, nobody showed up. Nobody played. It was just like, nothing. You could see the body language from the guys, hands on the hips. We couldn't get anything going. Penalties plagued us again. Injuries kind of got it, but I'm not an injury person, Louis. I hate saying that injuries cost us the game because you know what? Injuries happen in the NFL. You have to, almost plan for them. That's what depth is called. It's the next man up mentality. So I can honestly tell you, it wasn't a game that I kind of really thought we had a chance to win. But I thought we'd at least be a little bit more competitive. No,
believe me, I made the mistake of believing that the Dolphins could win this game because I looked at all the factors. I looked at everything that the Dolphins had going for them. I looked at the momentum they had and the lack of momentum that the Patriots had. They were getting beat down by the lowly Lions. They got whooped by the Jaguars the week before. So you have to imagine, okay, this team is failing without Edelman around, and they've laid out the blueprint for how the Patriots can be defeated. And what do the Dolphins do? Nothing. They didn't follow any of that. Like, no. What was the main thing that both the Lions and the Jaguars knew they had to do? Double up Gronk, don't let him get free releases, make Brady look elsewhere, and What did Miami do? Let Gronk have free releases. They didn't double him up. They put Kiko on him. And I know that everybody hammered me earlier on this season for saying that Kiko was a bad coverage linebacker because he's been making plays. Yes, he's been making plays. I never said Kiko was a bad linebacker. I said he was a bad coverage linebacker. There is a very distinct difference here between just plain bad and being bad at something. Kiko is a terrific linebacker when the play is in front of him. If he has to chase somebody, you lose. That's just how it is with Kiko Alonso. He makes plays, he tackles hard, he gives it everything he's got. He's not built for coverage. Never has been, never will be, and it's an unfortunate thing that that's the way it is. But that's the way the Dolphins wanted to handle it. They didn't double Gronk. They let him. And you know what? It was Travis Wingfield who was putting up GIFs earlier of the game, and there was one point where Jerome Baker literally stepped out of Gronk's way to let him run past him so he could eventually catch a pass in the middle of the field. It's like, what are you doing? Don't at least bump him before you let him go by. It's like, no, he's just going to say, oh, sorry, Gronk, I didn't mean to step out in the way of your righteous fury. It's like, no, get in his way. Do something. Trip him up. Poke him in the eyeball. Something. No, just let him go. And Brady took advantage of that, and then we couldn't stop the run, and all these things. It's like this magical switch that came on as soon as it showed up in Foxborough. All those things that they were struggling with weren't struggling with anymore. None of it. They were completely, incredibly unstoppable from start to finish, and it's honestly baffling. Like, how do you lose to the Lions and then come and kick the cans of the Dolphins, who, by all accounts, should be a better team than the Lions altogether?
Yeah, it's the truth. But like I said, every year, though, it's, I think it's the matchups. I think, like they know us so well. I think when they come back down here, we know them so well, and we get up for the game down here. It's like we just forget how to play football when we get up there, because it's fundamental football. Block the guy in front of you, for crying out loud. I mean, if you don't know your gap scheme, or, if this is it, everybody, we got outcoached, we got outplayed, we got outmatched in every aspect of that football game. There isn't finger pointing. Okay, Gase said a couple things that were alarming. You and I had to deal with it all week on Twitter with the Tannehill people. Honestly, I'm sorry, guys. He's not a Mahomes. He's not going to magically make things happen. And Tannehill is who Tannehill is. And I'm sorry, if the plays aren't in front of him and he knows where he's going, and Gase made it perfectly clear, there were a couple plays where Grant and Amidala were open. Things were happening so fast, he didn't see them. And that's Tannehill. I mean, it's,
He's not perfect. He's a good quarterback.
Exactly.
He's a good quarterback. He's not going to make things happen off script.
I mean,
he's not an off script quarterback. I don't think he ever has been. But you know what? Hang on. We need to give this little disclaimer before everybody calls us Tannehill haters, because every time I say something even remotely negative about him. Because you know me, Lisa. I have been supporting Tannehill.
Right.
I had one little brief instance early in 2016 where I was like, I'm done with him. Because I was emotional. And
emotions will get you. And emotions get a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's like, so that was the one brief moment where I was like, I'm done with Tannehill. But ever since that, but besides that, I have been supporting him pretty much the entire time he's been the Dolphins quarterback. He is not what people would consider elite.
Right.
Now, here is the thing that I want to say. Most people would agree when somebody says Tannehill will never be top 10, correct?
Oh yeah, you'll
However,
get a lot of that.
Watch this. I believe he can absolutely be top 10. But this is the thing about it. The whole idea of what is a top 10 quarterback, it's honestly, it's moot anyway, because once you get past Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, and right now Mahomes is probably right there at number 4, because that's how he's doing so far, and maybe you put Goff at number 5 for now, and maybe somewhere down the road you're going to put Flacco back at number 7 or something because he's having a good season. That's basically my main point about this whole thing. What is a top 10 quarterback? Top 10 quarterback is not a term that I think truly exists and can be categorized, because those bottom half of those quarterbacks, once you get past the top 5 that you know for sure are really good, that list changes week to week. Ryan Fitzpatrick, for the first 3 weeks of the year, he was the best thing that anybody had ever seen. He stole Minka's nickname from him, or at least he made it so that it's his nickname anyway. And then week 4, he sucks so bad they threw Jameis Winston back in there after he was going to be named. I said right from the very get that as soon as Jameis Winston came back, something would happen to Fitzpatrick. It's what always happens. What always happens. Fitzpatrick gets named the starter, and he falls to pieces every single time. If he's backing somebody up, he is the best quarterback you will ever find. But as soon as he's a starter, he needs to go. See, honestly, you know what? Here's how you do it. This is how the Dolphins can go undefeated in 2019. You keep Ryan Tannehill as the starter. You name him the starter. You talk about how incredible he is all the time. And then you put Ryan Fitzpatrick in. You don't even let Tannehill touch the field. You keep saying starter, but you put Fitzpatrick in there. Dolphins will be undefeated in 2019 because Fitzpatrick is still the backup. That's how you do it. That's how you win. But that's my main point here, Lisa, is that that list past the top 5 changes every week. Tannehill was probably a top 5 quarterback by all numbers before this Patriots game.
It's all numbers.
Right, it's all numbers.
That's numbers. And that's the thing. I mean, when you look at, I can't argue with people on Twitter about Ryan Tannehill's numbers. They're awesome. I mean, when you look at the stats and the numbers and the wins to the losses, you would think we would have gone up there and beat the brakes off the Patriots, not the other way around. So numbers, I'm not going to argue with you guys on that. I mean, he's got fantastic numbers. The thing is, you've got to bring it to the next tier. I mean, you've got to win a game. You've got to move out of this pocket. You've got to make plays happen down the field.
He did against the Jets and the Raiders and the Titans. He did.
Those balls he throws, they're beautiful. And I have said this, and I'm telling you, and I still think he is one of the most accurate passers on the rollout I have ever seen. He has got beautiful accuracy when you roll him out. The pocket presence everybody talks about. I mean, he's dropping these balls on a dime. He certainly has all the tangibles to be a winning quarterback. And, I support him, and I think Gase can win with him. I question why we have 4 quarterbacks on the roster.
Will forever be questioned. We will question that forever and ever and ever all season long. I guarantee it, because he's not getting rid of it.
Well, and Gase loves them. And it's kind of, what's that say about Adam Gase? I mean, we've had that conversation. People have asked him about it. He said it's not unpopular. Well, of course, I'm sure it's not popular with Tannenbaum. I'm sure it's not popular with some of the other coaches that say,
No. You know what? It's a Ron Wolfism. Ron Wolf, like that whole Hall of Fame GM. He was like, he had said, I wonder why more teams aren't having 4 quarterbacks. I'm like, well, I guess he took that lesson to heart because he's keeping them.
Yeah, he is.
Back in the day, there were a lot of teams who carried 3 and 4 quarterbacks on a roster, but that's old time.
And you would just kind of almost hope that you would have a coach that was young. I mean, when you look at like the Rams and we say what he's doing with his play calling and they're, you watch it, national TV, watch that Thursday night game, and you're in awe of this guy. I mean, the play calls. I mean, it's like, oh, this is the next generation guys. These are the new coaches coming up. Gruden's getting pounded right now because it's like Gruden's old school. Look, this old school stuff's not working. That's the national media attention right now on Gruden. It's like, you got rid of your best defensive player. The game's passed you by. Now all these young offensive coordinators. Yeah. Exactly. And now all of a sudden these young offensive coordinators are getting all the attention. And I like I said, I think that's the most I'm disappointed in. I just expected so much. And I think that's where I got myself caught up. I expected when we got Gesicki, I expected to see this offense just wide open. I expected him to do these calls. We're still getting the bubble screen. We're still getting the run, get behind the chains, penalties. I mean, none of that's changed. That's alarming to me.
That's probably one of the biggest problems that the Dolphins with Adam Gase has. Now we're starting to talk about what's wrong with the Dolphins. Shall we let us count the ways? And again, I have to keep saying this. They're 3-1. The season's far from over, but it's like the problems are still so painfully evident that you can't help but talk about them. So you know what? I want to be able to start things off a little different because we've already griped for the past 10 minutes already, and we haven't even gotten started yet. Are there any good things that we can talk about the team in general? Forget last week. Last week was a disaster from top to bottom, but the team itself, is there anything right now that's good to talk about besides 3-1 overall?
Well, you have to be happy with Mika Fitzpatrick. I mean, you have to think that, finally, and I'll bring it a little bit of a full circle here of skirting some of the things I think the issues. Draft picks this last certainly 5 years have really been a problem for us. It looks like, maybe finally, he's coming along very well. We talked about him exclusively the first couple of games. And I mean, I'm seriously, what was the positive? He picked off Brady. I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter if it was 30-0 at the point. I mean, one day I always laughed. I said, he's going to tell his kids that he picked off Hall of Fame Tom Brady's pass once in a game. You know
why he was able to do that? I think it was because Devon Godchaux smacked him from the middle of the offensive line.
But still, that's a highlight of his his career. I mean, nobody's going to probably remember what the score of the game was. I mean, he's going to be like, yeah, I picked off Tom Brady, and that was Michael Thomas's biggest thing down here. I mean, the guy was awesome on special teams, but what was the thing he was known for? Picking off Brady in the end zone as they were driving 2 days here. So, I think he's been a bright spot for us.
Oh, no, he's going to be a stud.
I think so. And I'm going to say I think Ryan Tannehill's play. I think I'm kind of thinking that he's getting into the form. I mean, you got to remember the kid's coming off of, not playing last year at all. So, I mean, you've got to give him a little bit of time. I just kind of figured, by game 4 he would be a little bit better. But I said, I think it's the Patriots.
But I think we have to define what exactly is better, Lisa. Okay, we have a Jay Orion in the chat. Tannehill will never be a franchise quarterback. Okay. Okay. Once again, I bring this up.
I respect that. Look, I don't try to argue with him. I mean, tell him that's fine if that's what he thinks. Problem is, it doesn't matter what we think. And that's what I always try to tell everybody. Yeah, okay, I'll agree with you. He's not a franchise quarterback. Okay, Jay, we're stuck. Okay, we're still stuck with him. Let's fix this. What can we do to try to at least make him a manageable quarterback then?
We've seen what that is. We've seen it's called protect him, and which they did for the first 3 weeks for the most part, and have a running game, which they did for the first 2 weeks, and then Tannehill pretty much had to do it himself week 3 with the three touchdowns that were technically pass plays by statistical designation. Those 3 touchdowns should be counted as runs, but nevertheless, there were a lot of throws that had to be made in between to put them in the position to do that, and there was no running game. He made that happen pretty much on his own. But there's something about New England, but that's besides the point. It's always New England, but I can't really blame him for that, because I can't really blame a lot of guys for that if you really think about it, because there's just something about New England that they just know how to beat you. And if you're not one of those coaches, which there are very few of, who can go off script and just do stuff because it feels right, then you're not going to beat Belichick. This is where I come to what exactly is the definition of a franchise quarterback. Okay.
Yeah.
What is
exactly.
What is the definition of a franchise quarterback? Are you looking for an elite quarterback? Because if that's the case, there's only 3, 4, 5 tops who you can definitively say that's a franchise quarterback in the NFL. And of course, that's Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, maybe Mahomes, because again, it's a small sample size. Mahomes is doing incredible and fascinating, unthinkable, amazing things on national television, and he's lighting the NFL on fire. And you know why I can't say it yet? Because so many times we've seen this happen. And what happens? Like by year 2 or 3 of their careers, they've fallen off the face of the earth. You can't tell me that's wrong. I know that it's incredible, the highlight reels that Mahomes is putting up right now. But what happens as soon as something starts going wrong? Like we thought Marcus Mariota was going to be the next greatest thing. He was awesome in his year. Jameis Winston was throwing up bombs, and people were in awe of Winston's incredible panache and ability to do things that nobody had ever seen before. Where is he now? He got benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick. How about RG3? Yes, it was mainly injuries. Mainly injuries that messed him up, but he was incredible in his rookie year. He led the Redskins to victory and got them to the playoffs, and he was unstoppable, and he was going to come back and be the superstar franchise quarterback that he was before. He hasn't been seen starting very well since. So if injuries are that big of an issue for you, then you shouldn't be playing anymore. But he never actually got back to form. A lot of Carson Palmer had 2 ACL injuries, and he still came back.
All right. I think it's different for everybody, though. Like you said, I think when you talk about franchise quarterbacks, to me, I have my own personal opinion of what a franchise quarterback should be. And a lot of fans, the older fans, the newer generation to the older generation fans are hot and cold. It is amazing, the difference. Because growing up with the Dolphins like I did, I had Dan Marino. Quarterbacks were never an issue for me, okay? When we lost Danny retired, that whole realm of quarterbacks, became number one thing for the Dolphins. What did we need to do? I've watched quarterback play my whole life. And I have an idea of franchise quarterbacks.
What is it? Tell us.
Mine is basically when you see a guy, and I'm going to use Baker Mayfield, I'm going to use Mahomes, I'm going to use Dak Prescott. You just see it in them. You just see the mentality. You see the way they play. Anybody that can come in and take control of an offense and elevate those players to a different tier. To where, like Mahomes, when you heard Tyreek Hill after the press conference last night, he was jacked up. That guy brings a whole different level. He brings the quarterback level up. It's about making things happen. It's about, elevating the other players on your team. Throw stats out the window. Would you rather have 440 yards, 2 touchdowns, and still lose the game? There's not one quarterback that's going to tell you no. I'd rather throw for 23 yards and just have that touchdown win the game. That's what it's about, the wins. You've got to put the W's up. You've got to take this team. I saw that a little bit out of Tannehill this year. And the guy got criticized for it. He's taking this team. He's trying to.
He's not marketable.
To me as a Dolphin fan, I don't care. I'm with him. I've been in conferences with him. You have sat down. We have talked to him. He doesn't care what the media says. He wants to win. We see that in him. We get a little bit of the side that some fans don't get. We get a little bit of a peek inside of the team. And I certainly the last couple of years have learned a lot about him. And the guys went in. But you got to understand something. I'm a different person on first round draft picks. And I have said this, and everybody knows me. If you're selected in the first round, you're going to play, to me. If you're a quarterback in the first round, you are ready to take the reins, and you should play. I've always said that, which was great. When Ryan Tannehill came here, he got named the starter. He beat out Matt Moore. I think it was Matt Moore, right?
David Garrard got injured, and that's what happened.
Yes, he did. I think, yeah, you're right. But everybody's got to understand, Ryan Tannehill was selected number 1 for one reason, to run Joe Philbin's and Mike Sherman's offense. Mike Sherman was the offensive coordinator, head coach, I believe, of the Texas Tech.
Texas A&M. This whole
system was going to be built around him, number 1. And honestly, would any other GM taken Ryan Tannehill in the first round?
I know Mike Shanahan wanted him.
So it's like the guy every year, and Rich Eisen got tore up for this. Every year, it's like we're waiting for this big breakout for Tannehill. I'm kind of seeing it this year a little bit with the long balls, the way he's throwing those balls in.
He moves up in the pocket, Lisa. That's the pocket presence part of it. Now, if it's almost like every year he fixes one thing. Every year he fixes something. At first, it was the deep ball. Then it became his ability to lead the team. Then it became his ability to do so and so. He's almost like you know anything about botany? It's like an orchid flower. They take forever to bloom, but when they do, they're beautiful, unbelievable. And some flowers bloom very fast, and then they die very fast. So I don't know, this is a microwave society. They don't care about. They don't want. They don't want.
It's a different breed of quarterbacks that are coming out than what the old style quarterbacks are. I mean, you had the prolific pocket passers like Dan Marino, Jim Kelly. Now it's totally different. These quarterbacks are moving. These quarterbacks are, different set of rules. I mean, so each quarterback to me is going to have to specifically fit that type of system to me. And I think that's what a lot of these coaches want. They want these type of quarterbacks that fit their system. And honestly, when you look at Adam Gase, obviously he likes Tannehill. He thinks Tannehill can run his thing. You know what? Look at the first couple games. I was happy with our offense. I mean, Tannehill, I'm happy with him. I think he's doing great. We had that one speed bump. This Sunday is going to be the real test, how we bounce back, because Cincinnati's red hot right now.
But matchups again. Okay, let's talk. You want to talk about matchups? The Cincinnati Bengals, we've had a pretty good history against them in the past. Mm-hmm. So by this is one of those instances where it's like everything on paper looks like we should be absolutely clobbered, and here I am thinking, no, we're gonna beat Cincinnati because that's how it always works. How many times can you even count how many times in the past few years we have played the Baltimore Ravens expecting, this is the time we're gonna beat them. We've got this on them, we got this on them, and they got this on them, and they come and they punch us in the mouth because it's something about New England and Baltimore. Those are our kryptonite.
Our Achilles heels. Yeah, they're our Achilles heel. That's for sure. I mean, and it's always that way. I don't know what it is, especially when it comes down to the wild cards and the playoffs. You just look and Baltimore's right there with us. It's like, we're going to play the Ravens in the playoffs. We're going to play the Ravens in the playoffs.
I know. It's like, oh crap. Okay, I guess we're done now. It was a good run, but that's the thing that happens. It's like there are just some teams that just know how to take you out. I don't understand what it is, and I feel like for us, the Bengals are that. I think beating the Bengals should not be an issue for the Dolphins, regardless of the Red Rocket and how hot he is right now. There's another one for you, Andy Dalton. Is he a franchise quarterback or isn't he? Depends on what week it is. That's what the answer is. The answer changes depending on what week it is. You mentioned Dak Prescott as one of them, and Dak Prescott's having the past two seasons have been so far for him. He's having ups, downs, all arounds. Yeah. Without Ezekiel Elliott, he's like, not pretty. And without that offensive line, not pretty. And then he comes and he makes an incredible play, and everybody's back on his side. And that's why I say, I
don't hear the fans calling for him though. Okay. I don't hear the Dallas Cowboy fans saying, "Oh, we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback." Not like here.
Just the fan base.
We get it every week.
That's the fan base, though. Because, nobody's calling for Matt Stafford's head. And what are the Lions doing? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
They're awful still.
Look, Matt Ryan now. Holy smokes.
Nobody's calling for his head. But you know what? Ugh, bad. Ugh, Big Ben is falling off the map a little bit. And nobody's calling for his head yet. Nope. Nobody's calling for him. You know what? I'll even go this far. Did the Browns win this last week? Because the only highlight that I remember seeing was that Baker Mayfield threw a pick six, and even then, he's supposed to. What? Four? Baker Mayfield threw four?
I think was Kate was talking about that. I think he had 4. I didn't watch the game. I was just watching the highlights, of course, because
because that sounds incredible. Like, this is the golden child, Baker Mayfield, and there's no way.
But yet he still put up 40. I think he still put up 30-something points. I mean, it was like, okay, wow. No. But he's a rookie. You're going to have to. That's why you play him. To me, and that's why I always say that's why the kid should have been starting to day one to me. No, and 2
interceptions.
He's got to take his knocks, and they're going to. That's just what's going to happen. But and then by year 2, you hope that that's all behind them, and you keep going forward. But I'm not talking to anybody in Cleveland that isn't buying a number 6 jersey. They're sold on this kid.
All right. I'm getting a message from Antwan. He's trying to call in, but it's not letting him. Let me see if I can get this fixed.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked quarterback. Let's see. We talked plenty of quarterback. And Jay Orion again. Tannehill can only beat mediocre teams. He cannot beat the good teams. He folds when the lights are bright. Okay.
Is that a fair assumption, Lewis? Let's talk about it a little. Let's give him his little spotlight here. Let's.
Who are the good teams, though? The good teams before the season were the Titans and the Jets and the this and the that. All these teams rise.
He's talking about like what we had just talked about. We always struggle against the Patriots. When is that going to end? When can we see somebody,
When is the other 90% of the league going to struggle? Stop. It's New England.
So which team? I mean, we got a couple good tests coming up. I mean, we got the Bengals and then we got the Bears. And the Bears are looking legit. So, I mean, if we can go in and be competitive and stay close and pull out these games, then I don't think it's fair to call them mediocre at that time. And hopefully people will see that. But, like I said.
Well, not Tannehill. He's talking about Tannehill beating mediocre teams. But that's what I'm saying is like what qualifies as a mediocre team? A team that's.
I wouldn't qualify. Well, the Titans are 3-1, but they're are they legit?
I mean, who did they beat? Who did they beat? They lost to us, and then who did they take down?
Let's see. They just beat. Who did they just beat? Look that up. Because I mean, you have to at this point see where the games are and which teams we've already beaten and where they're going. And right now it looks like the only legitimate team that we've played, if you want to say it, at their leading the division is the Titans.
Right. Which was that one game that was the longest game ever, and we
right.
You were there with me. No, you weren't there because I was there for opening.
Yeah,
day
you were there. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Alex Kramer. Yeah, no, that was bad. But
yeah, that was. Let me see who the Titans. Yeah, because I think they just had a come from behind win. Actually, that was one of the games we were talking about.
Right.
They took down the Eagles.
They took down there it is. Actually, so that's what
they took down the Eagles and the Jags.
Corniola Productions in the chat. Yeah, he's telling us now that the Titans beat the Eagles and they took down and the Jaguars. Yeah. But that game was pathetic, man. Like, what did the Jaguars?
Like 9-6. It was 9-6.
So it's the battle of the kickers, the most epic matchup ever exist. But that's what I'm saying. This NFL, so this year altogether, Lisa, has been so bizarre. It's like you might as well throw all predictions out the window because at any given moment, some team is going to suddenly light up and throw down 40. I said this, and I expect the Dolphins at some point this season against a team that we never see it coming. They're going to suddenly drop 40 on somebody, and mind you, the fan base will still find a way to complain. But I digress. It's gonna be like this. There's no way to know who is what anymore. Nobody, even on his best days, Ryan Fitzpatrick does not throw for 400 yards in 2 straight games. Nobody expected the Titans. Well, I mean, the Titans were supposed to be this good, but they started out having so many issues, and everybody thought the Titans were out of it. They expected Sam Darnold to be the best quarterback of this whole thing, and he hasn't done very good. Baker Mayfield coming out, not nearly as hot as everybody was expecting. Josh Allen was supposed to be garbage. He's doing pretty good so far, all things considered. Josh Rosen was supposed to be the guy who was going to be the next franchise quarterback for the Cardinals. I don't know how he did. I haven't heard much from him. He's been like the non-talk.
I mean, he's hot and cold. Well, they're 0-4, so there's really not much to really talk about. I mean, they're just not a very good football team right now. But I mean, I heard, I was watching some of the stats from him. I mean, he's learning. That's a learning process for this kid right now. I mean, honestly, it was his first real start. So, I mean, you got to give him a couple games to kind of see what he can do. I'm not hearing too many bad things. Like I said, the EMP76 brings up another good point. When's Gase? I don't ever see this happening, but I don't think Gase will ever give up play calling. And that's
you're on
just
Twitter right now, right?
Yeah, I was just watching EMP76,
okay.
and I've heard that I've seen a lot about Gase's play calling. Everybody seems like they're on the play calling. And from what I understand, and this is just me, like I said, that last game I was there, that he does bounce a couple plays off. I forgot the other offensive coordinator's name who brought in from Chicago.
Dowell Loggins.
Was it Dowell? I mean, I think that they kind of do. I think that's kind of a little bit of a miss thing. I think they kind of do put the game plan together, sitting down, but I know Gase does. And I'm going to tell you one thing that a lot of fans don't understand. Gase does not watch our defense, guys. That is one thing I'm going to tell you right now. Sitting in that stadium, when our defense is on the field, Gase is on the bench with Ryan Tannehill and the offense going through plays. And so when these guys are asking him questions about the defense, he honestly does not know until he looks at the film. Because I watch him constantly when I'm in that stadium. He does not. He'll watch our defense like if they're done talking, he'll come and stand there. But I'll guarantee you 75% of the time, he does not watch our defense. Only on film.
Right. So I think it would be fair to say that that's maybe one of the problems of it's like, what's wrong with the Miami Dolphins? Gase doesn't know anything about defense. I think that's probably something that we have to look at and say, uh-oh. And that's why, you know what? I think that's one of the biggest problems that the Dolphins have is that Gase, it almost feels like if I attack Gase, I'm going to get backlash from it because there is no middle ground anymore, Lisa. There is no middle ground. I've tried to be on the fence about everybody so hard, and yet no matter what, all I get is just like arrows from both sides. It's like I'm either getting defense from one side or I'm getting hammered by both. So Gase is.
I go with my feeling. I go, and not everybody's going to agree with me. And I'm not certainly, I mean, you and I could probably disagree on some things, but you know what? That's what it's all about too. I mean, you cross the line when you start getting passionate about it. Just like with the Tannehill talk. I mean, you can lose followers, gain followers. It seems like you can never be in the middle with Tannehill.
My follower count has been yo-yo ever since
exactly. And you know what? The biggest thing, I think, people just support your quarterback. That's it. I mean, it doesn't matter what you think of him. What we think doesn't matter. It matters to all of us because it's great that we can have these conversations and talk and say, you know what? Wow, he isn't a franchise quarterback. To where you have the other conversation, the guy goes, oh, I'm sorry, I disagree. I think he is. And that's fine too. Because you know what? We all want the same thing in the end. We all want the same thing.
Do we?
We want to win. Yes, I want to win. I want the W. Well, I could care less whether he throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. As long as we win that game, that's what I care about. It's about winning in this league, and it's about winning every game. And every single game in this league is, from what we're talking about, we came up with 7 games this weekend, Lewis. 7 games came down to final drives. 7 games. I mean, it's any given Sunday. I mean, every single week we're seeing different outcomes. We can be one of those teams. Like you said, there should be no reason why we can't go into Cincinnati and beat them.
You know what? This just now occurred to me. People are saying how hot the Bengals are right now, right? Who did they just take out in that to come back for the win against?
I think it was Atlanta.
The 0-4 Falcons?
Mm-hmm. It was Atlanta.
Okay, so how hot are they really?
That's what I'm saying. It's like every single game.
I mean, yeah, the argument should apply both ways. If we're going to talk about how crap the Dolphins have played against teams, and then why can't we do the same thing to the Bengals? Like, who have the Bengals taken out?
The Falcons, I know, is the last one because we were just talking about that with these last couple of games.
Bengals schedule. Let's just look this up for a second. Who exactly had the Bengals beaten that they're such an incredible team right now, such a juggernaut that we're so worried about? Let's see here. Okay, they took out the Colts. There's nobody there but Andrew Luck. Nope. Okay, the Ravens. Okay, they beat the Ravens, but the Bengals and the Ravens, they trade blows all the time, so whatever. The Ravens are one of those teams we can't beat no matter what. I don't know what's weird with that. They lost to Cam Newton and the Panthers.
Yes.
And then they came back in the last second to beat Atlanta Falcons, who are 0-4 right now. Okay, so why should I be impressed? It's like if we can't be impressed with Miami, why should we be impressed with Cincinnati? Because Andy Dalton looks cooler?
I think Andy Dalton and A.J. Green got a little chemistry going. We're going to have to shut that down a little bit.
The
I mean, there's always that one thing. Yeah, that quarterback wide receiver we're going to have to take care of. We're going to have to take care of our running game. I mean, it's a whole different game, whole different set of rules. 2-3-1 game, 2-3-1 teams. There's Okay, so if you and I are talking, there should be really no reason why we shouldn't beat them. And if you're a Bengals fan, they're probably saying the same thing about us. So,
Exactly.
so.
And you have to look at it that way. The Falcons are 0-4, and the Bengals had to come back from behind to beat them in the last seconds. Again, I'm not impressed. I don't think that's why I said the Bengals can be beaten. And you know what's gonna happen. And this is the thing that bugs me the most. We want to talk about what's wrong with the Dolphins, but it seems like we keep coming back to the answer. What's wrong with the Dolphins is the fan base that's making us want to talk about this. That's all I'm talking about. But this is what I'm talking. This is what I'm going to say right now. If we beat the Bengals, you know what's going to happen is that they're going to say, "Oh well, who did the Bengals beat? They didn't beat anybody special. It didn't mean nothing." Like a winning record's not enough. We beat the Titans, who currently have a winning record, and their only loss is to Miami. Why do they not count as a good team? Because it's a fake. What about the Bengals? It's also a fake. Who's a good team? Who is a good team?
They're a good team. I think we can have a lot of pride in hanging with them. I mean, we knocked Mariota out of the game, for crying out loud.
Right. You know, people give it an asterisk. He didn't play the whole game. It was freaking Blaine Gabbert we beat. So what? Dolphins struggle against mediocre quarterbacks.
Yeah, but Blaine Gabbert's the one who beat the Jaguars, technically.
Mm-hmm. There is that.
So you know, it is what, like I said, it's any given Sunday. I mean, and Gase was right about that. This is, you know, on to Cincinnati, and that's what we're doing. We're talking about Cincinnati because that's what we need to talk about right now.
Pretty much.
We need to focus on the Bengals.
So what needs to be fixed with the Dolphins? Running game. All right, let's talk about the running game then. We knew that was going to have to be a big thing going forward this year. We knew that we needed a running game going. We needed something to go on. And by the way, I'm still wondering what's going on with Antwan. I haven't heard back from him. His phone's having issues, so he may or may not show up. I'm honestly not sure anymore, but I digress. Anyway, so the running game, we knew we were going to need that. We needed Kenyon Drake to have a breakout season, and we see that he can do it, and we know what Frank Gore is capable of when he's given the chance. He's the bruiser. He's the guy who can run through walls if you give him a wall to run behind. But that's just it. He's running behind. He's running into the wrong walls. And once again, I go back to the GIF sets that Travis Wingfield on Locked On Dolphins was tweeting out earlier today. We complain about Adam Gase's play calling. We complain that he gets away from the run too often. But Lisa, this is the issue that I have with this whole scenario. Every time they run the ball now, no gain, 1 yard, loss of 3. Like they can't run at all. And then people put up the assumption, oh well, the other teams are sitting on the run and making sure that we can't run the ball, so we need Tannehill to step up. Tannehill is having to step up into dime, and in the case of the Patriots, quarters defenses, and even when we run against those types, we still can't get any push. We can't run the ball against a quarters defense, which is mostly secondary players. That offensive line that is patched together the way it is beyond bad, and that was considered one of our strengths going forward, and that's something that just baffles me so much. It's like the Dolphins are cursed when it comes to this line. No matter what we do, no matter who we pick up, no matter who we draft, who we sign in free agency, no matter what we do, it's just they fall to pieces every time, and always at the worst possible moments. And even when there's some kind of positive play going on, lo and behold, there's the flag. Oh, that's why something went right, because something went wrong.
Well, and then here's another thing. Okay, we know this. Is this something Gase always says? I should have stayed. I mean, he always second guesses himself. That's one thing that drives me crazy about him in his press conferences. You know, he almost gets down on himself and says, I should have, listened to him. I should have ran the ball. I should have, you know what? And you're right. First, hand off, no yards, hand off, loss of 1. Third down, here comes the flag because it's coming because they're ready to tee off on Tannehill. So they're jittery because they want to try to get their block assignment set. And a lot of them usually jump on that third down. So now we're behind the chains. So now you're throwing. Why, to me, this. I know this. You know this. Half the Dolphin fan base knows this. Why can't we open it up a little bit? Let the passing game open up the running game a little bit. Isn't that why we drafted such a big tight end to open the middle of the field up a little bit?
So he's here to block.
Dude, we can't get I'm gonna tell you something that was really. I always go back to the Patriots game. I don't know why, because I guess it was
because it's the most recent in our memory. Listen, of course,
they were getting pressure on us with 3 men at the line of scrimmage. 3. you're not going to win. You're not going to win a game. I'm sorry. If you can't block 3 guys, you're done. I mean, much less a team that's going to stack 8 up there and make you beat them with the throw, which remember 3 years ago, that's what they were doing to Tannehill. That was the biggest talk we were having. People were making Tannehill beat them because they were stacking the line of scrimmage and making Tannehill. Well, now...
But hang on, Lisa. I don't mean to cut you off, but you know what? We're talking about how they're making him throw. Okay, go back to Oakland. They dared him to beat them. And he did. For the most part, he did. He did. That's exactly what we were hoping it would happen again. But it's the weirdest thing. I just don't understand it. Sometimes things just don't go this way. But then you have moments like back in 2016. People were telling me that the Dolphins, the Tannehill. Remember when Tannehill was one botched catch attempt in the end zone from Devontae Parker away from making an incredible comeback in New England, by the way? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that game? And people were telling me, like, that game's not valid. We played Jacoby Brissett. So? Jacoby Brissett didn't play defense. In fact, their defense was more stacked back then than it was against in this game.
Yeah, this game, yeah. We shouldn't have had any problem against this defense, to be honest with you.
So there lies the question. What was different? Was it Tannehill? Did he just have more Wheaties that morning? What was it? There was something changed. Something happened. Did Tannehill say, screw it, I'm going to do it my way, and that's it? If that's the case, then we have to look at Gase. Did Gase decide that he wanted to do it a different way, or did Tannehill decide that he wants to be more obedient to the coach because he wants to be the good kid? If that's the case, then we have to look at Tannehill for not doing what was supposed to be done. People love to talk about Marino. Marino went off script all the time. It was all the time.
It caused problems. You remember the fights on the sidelines?
Well, actually, I don't. I have to take people's.
I remember.
I was a young buck. I didn't know very much about.
I keep forgetting.
I was born in '93. I don't remember the primary.
Oh my goodness. So, yeah, there was, oh my gosh. I mean, I can tell you water bottles the F word getting sprued. I mean, the coats coming off, getting thrown on the ground, helmets getting thrown. I mean, yeah, he went, and there was the famous Oakland game where he came in, went to the huddle and said, I'm throwing every single time till we get ahead. And every single player will back that up, that he said that in the huddle. I don't care what he calls. I'm throwing every play. I'm throwing every down till we get ahead. So, I mean, Tannehill's not that. I'm sorry.
No, he's not that. But something happened. Something was up with that one game because people were telling me to invalidate the comeback attempt he almost pulled off in New England. I'm like, why? Just because Brady wasn't playing? Brady doesn't play defense. The defense is the same. So I think
you just get a game where you just feel it. I mean, there's games where you can you sense it. I think players have that. I mean, it's like we all do it in our lives. I mean, whatever your hobbies are or something like that, there's just one day where you're just on. You're just like, oh, I can't miss today. Whether you're bowling, whether you're golfing,
you can't explain it. Forget it. It's just go with it.
It's just go with it. And I think Ryan has those games. And it's where it's like Aaron Rodgers has those games where the guy can throw up a ball without even looking at a receiver, and for some reason there's a receiver under there. I mean, it just happens. There's just days I think that it can just the players are just feeling it. Right. I mean, you can see it in the stadium.
But here's where I'm going. Here's where I'm going with this. But those games that happen, there are still plays that need to be called, right?
Well, and then like you said, I'm going to go off on that one there. How come when we can't run the ball, we don't have a set of passing plays? Don't we? I mean, if we're not running the ball, does that mean that everything's scrapped? That we just don't have a game plan anymore? Can't you adjust? It's like, okay, our running game's not working right now. Let's try something different to open it up. We got to.
Against the Raiders.
I don't know.
The way that this is where I think most of the frustration lies, is that you keep seeing it happen, but then it doesn't happen again. It's almost like Gase draws up a brand new playbook every single game. It's like, well, we did that one. Time to throw that into the shredder. So
he outthinks himself. Maybe
he outthinks himself. Maybe he has to learn to cool off. Learn that just because teams know what's coming doesn't mean they can stop it. You don't always be mysterious Mr. X who nobody knows what's going to come your way. Let me tell you something. Bill Belichick has spies everywhere. He knows what color socks you wore to bed that night. So it's like, if you're going to try to outthink Belichick, forget it. You have to out-execute him. And what was that?
My cat.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that knocked my train of thought right off. Okay, forget it. The point is, play calling. It feels like the play calling is so inconsistent, and I can't for the life of me figure out why. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe he does outthink himself. But if that's the case, then how long will it take for him to learn to not do that? How long is it going to take before he comes to the realization that, you know what, maybe I just need to stick with one thing and go with it and just improvise where possible? If it's not in the game plan, you need to pick. You know how they handled 2016, right? They had Jay Ajayi and the ball, and it was working. So is that really all it is? That for all the accusations that Gase hates running the football, it seems to me that he's at his worst when he can't run the football.
No, I think he tries. I think, like you said, though, I don't think he does. I think he gets mad at himself sometimes because he abandons it sometimes too quick, he says. But we do too. As fans sitting in the stadium, you can only go 3 and out so many times before your defense wore out. I mean, you have to give your defense some time. You can't just go 3 and out, 3 and out. And if you've got 3 or 4 series and the running game's just not working, then you got to adjust. You have to.
So here's what people talk about. They talk about, well, put them in motion, put them in play action. But I'm thinking to myself, don't you need the running game to be working for that to even matter? Like I don't
think so. I think you can open the running game with plays. I do.
Lisa, here's why, though, because look, play action is literally faking a run so you can pass. If they know that you can't run the football, then if they see you do that, they have this luxury of being able to gamble and say that's not real. And even if it is, then they're pretty much prepared for it anyway. So they're going to know, oh, it's a play action pass. Don't fall for it. We're going to stay back here and do whatever we do. And if they do try to run,
and at that point,
3 yards.
Your quarterback needs to audible. At that point, you need a quarterback that can read that coverage, know where that X blitzer is going to be coming from, audible right out of that play, and audible into something that you're seeing on that field. If you look over and you're seeing Kenny Stills, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If it's not running, spread the guys out. Spread them out. I'd rather take my chances against a 4-man front than an 8. So that's what I'm saying. It's to me, it's like, okay, if the running game, you're stacking the line, you got, full, but your halfback, he's always in the gun. We're always in the hurry up. That we don't ever huddle. I mean, that's pretty much non-existent. We're always in the hurry up. I mean, we always, the tempo, up tempo.
Mm-hmm. That up tempo thing, I'm really starting to feel like it's overrated. Okay. like forget the whole mentality. Oh, we want to hurry up so the defense is tired. It's better that you know what you're doing. It's like, why do you need to go so fast? Do you see the time of possession right now? That whole hurry up thing sounds like it's something that Chip Kelly. It almost feels like we haven't seen hurry up until Chip Kelly came in and revolutionized what it meant to be hurry up.
Hurry up offense.
It's like no. Slow down.
The old Buffalo Bill sugar huddle. You probably won't remember that. That was kind of you won't remember that. That was at that time, you got to understand, everybody huddled. And then all of a sudden, here comes Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills in what they called that sugar huddle. And it was like, what are they doing? And it was a sugar huddle up tempo. And for the first, they went to 4 Super Bowls. So something has to work with it.
But if it's not working for you, what Tannehill has done? Tannehill has looked his best in 2 situations. He has looked his best in when he huddles up and they have time to set things up, and he's looked his best in 2-minute offenses where he has a set line of plays up ready for him so that he can just choose from them as he goes. That's the weirdest thing. But if it's a hurry up, this is the hurry up offense as far as I know. If they're calling in plays from the sideline and that's how they're doing it.
You're talking about our base offense. You're just talking about okay.
The base offense should be huddle up or let Tannehill go. That's what it feels like. If Gase is controlling the hurry up, then I think that's where the biggest problems is. Because what is it that Gase likes to call when they're hurrying up? They like to call those precious bubble screens all the time. They like to, and guess what? I understand the frustration there, and we keep doing it because Gase keeps expecting it to work, and I can understand why. Get this, I can understand why, because it seems like every other team in the whole NFL is capable of running screens except Miami.
Oh, Miami's been always horrible at that. But Gase, you already know that though. If you execute his play, it'll work. That's the thing. Everybody's got to execute it, and the timing has to be right on. If there's one thing off, the whole play's off. And
so who do you blame when the play isn't executed? Do you play?
Well, you look at the film and
blame the play caller? Do you blame the play caller?
If he's late throwing, and then you have to understand that. Okay, is he late throwing? Why was he late throwing? Did he get pressure?
The play caller is not Tannehill. The play caller is Gase. Do you blame Gase for the players not being able to execute? That's the one I've never understood.
That's why we got rid of J.I.J. That's why we got rid of J.I.J. Because he wasn't executing the calls that Gase was playing, and he got sick of it. And that's the whole reason he's not a running back for us. And he did not do what Gase wanted him to do.
Right. So who do you blame for that? Do you blame Gase for not being flexible enough to let Ajayi run the rock whenever he wanted, or do you blame Ajayi for not getting on board with the program? This is something that I wrote about in an article about. People ask the crowning achievement for Dolphins coachdom, right? Everybody looks at Don Shula, the Don. He was the Don father, whatever nickname you want to throw at him. He was the best Dolphins coach ever. Just
like Dan Marino, the best Dolphins quarterback ever. It's the same thing. This Dolphin team is molded off of two players.
But that's the thing. Shula didn't take crap from anybody. If you didn't like what Shula was doing, he'd kick you out. He didn't care who you were. He would kick you out.
We're seeing that now.
but
after today.
What's the difference?
Why? There is no difference to me. I don't see the difference. I had no problem with them getting rid of Jay Ajayi.
You're right. There is no difference.
There is no difference to me.
No difference. But why is the perception so different? Why is Shula praised while Gase is criticized? And those people criticizing Gase are the ones who credit Shula. It doesn't make any sense.
And we're 3-1. You shouldn't be criticizing anything, you can look at the way that the fan base is, though. He's a player, and right now with injuries mounting up and us getting beat, the timing is what I look at. If we had done this after the Oakland game, I don't think we would be having this discussion too much. I think that it would be a little bit turned. I think, okay, well, obviously the guy wasn't doing his job, but the timing right now is just questionable. And Jordan, I don't know, I retweeted it. I don't know if you did, but Jordan Phillips came out and said this whole thing doesn't have to do with anything that happened on the sideline Sunday.
Well, you know what? Okay. One of those, somebody's lying, somebody's telling the truth, and if you go against the player, you're a sellout. If you go against the organization, then you're not a fan. But this is what I'm telling you. It's a world of extremes. You can't be in the middle anymore. But anyway, I can see. This is the way I look at it personally. Mm-hmm. Jordan Phillips, because right now the narrative being put out there is that because of the outburst that he had.
I don't think so.
Well, I don't think so either, really. But well, maybe it was. Who knows? Maybe it was. But either way, it's an internal affair. Gase and Phillips didn't get along. Okay, bye. Don't get over it. But it's like this is the thing. If that is the case, and if the stories are true that it was between Gase and Phillips and defensive line coach Chris Kokorek, and they didn't get along, that's why he was cut. And so, if that's the case, then who does it look worse on? If that narrative sticks, does it look worse on Gase for cutting him, or does it look worse on Phillips for being the malcontent, right?
Well, I would have to look at it and say what happens. I am a strong believer. If the guy doesn't want to be here, he's out. I'm sorry. Because he's not going to give me 110%, then he's out. Something happened. I doubt we'll ever know exactly what ever happened. But the narrative being timing sucked, because I think you're looking at that saying, okay, well, Sunday he obviously had issues with the coaches, but everybody has issues with the coaches, Lewis. Look at Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels 2 weeks ago. going at each other on the sidelines. You know,
well,
I mean, it's
one is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. The other is a wannabe failure head coach who got lambasted for letting Tim Tebow touch his football team.
I just look at it as emotion. I just think it's emotion. And, sometimes it's better for both parties, if they part ways, wish him luck, say good luck, and, because you saw the tweets when he got let go.
Right, I saw the tweet.
He didn't act like he wanted to be here.
He didn't want to be here. He was very upset. But this is what I'm talking about. If he gets cut and he doesn't say anything, then it looks like, the Dolphins just cut Jordan Phillips. He wasn't playing much. He must not be that good. By saying this is why I say it this way. This is where I was going with this. If by saying the things that he says, I'm so glad to be out of there. It was horrible. And by the way, I didn't get cut because of the outburst. That was not what happened. It was something else entirely. Mm-hmm. By doing that, I believe what he is doing, he is trying to save face. Because if he leaves it the way it is, then that means that he got into an argument with coaches, and then the narrative comes out he's a problem player. He's not somebody you should take on unless you want a distraction in the locker room. So by pinning it on the coaches and basically saying, I was so glad to be out of there, you don't understand, and going the way of Jay Ajayi and Jarvis Landry and Mike Pouncey, because those guys also had pretty things to say about Adam Gase upon leaving. So by following their lead, he is essentially saving his career, because now this is the fourth player who's come out and said they have problems with Adam Gase and the way he does things. So now another team is going to be like, don't worry, we're not going to do the things that Gase does. And he gets another shot at an NFL team. Now he's not a problem player. He's somebody who was victimized by somebody on an ego trip.
Well, that's a lot of the way you're going to see it. But I mean, you also got to understand, Gase is your boss. And if I go to work tomorrow and I'm like, you know what? I don't like my boss.
Okay, well,
that's going to affect my job. And that's what it is. It's a business. When it all comes down to it, it's a business. And it's just like with Mac in Oakland. He was holding out for the contract. He said, this is what I'm going to play with. If not, then I don't want to be here. Gruden's like, all right, well, if you don't want to be here, see ya. That's an old school type coach right there. It's like, okay, well, if you don't want to be here, then you're out of here. Lo and behold, Mac's a stud. And it probably should have swallowed your ego a little bit, and learned a little bit of a lesson.
Like Khalil Mack wanted more money than pretty much every other defensive player in the entire NFL, and the Raiders didn't have that cat.
I'd find a way. That's just me, though, because, I mean, he's an outstanding player, and I think he would make a huge difference in Oakland right now. But you know what? It is what it is. And like I said, we don't know. I mean, that's the thing, is like if I had facts on it and knew exactly what happened, but you're right. And I will tell you that right now, I agree with you as far as every player that leaves here has something to say. It's just not, they don't pack their bags up and swallow humble pie and just go play for another team. They go out with a bang, and they have things to say about this coach. So is there problems? There has to be, because I don't think you'd get this much noise if they didn't really want to be here and things weren't happening down here internally. Because it's like Ajayi did it, Landry's even threw shade. So it's kind of weird. It's but it's Adam Gase's team, and right now, like you said.
But that's that's even more so. It feels like that the old school ways. Because remember this. People romanticize Shula all the time. We need to find a coach like Shula. Mm-hmm. We did. It's not working. No, but players nowadays. This is what I was telling my father, and he's like, because. But you know what? I was telling this by my father. Nowadays, you can't do things the way Shula does things. And by the way, when Belichick leaves and he retires, he's going to be the last of his kind. I guarantee you that right now, because there is no coach in the NFL who has so much power the way the old style coaches had it. Shula, Belichick here, the last one really. Mm-hmm. There is no coach in the NFL who can get away with doing the stuff that they do. And I think Gase is learning that now, because this is why you have to be a player coach, because that's the only kind of coach you can be now. You didn't back in the old days. You didn't have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Right. Ways to get the message out. The only way you could get out messages was through the newspaper
Right.
Because that's the only way you can get the message out. Now, all you have to do is click send, and you can air out the entire team's dirty laundry in 2 hours. The Jonathan Martin scandal. Would that have ever gotten out unless, in order to get that out, Martin would have had to go to the newspaper, say all the things that happened to him, and then they would have had to write a story about it, and that's how we would have found out. And then probably somebody could have said, oh, well, that's not true. There's no way you can prove that, because back in the old days, you didn't have stuff like text messages, tweets, digital videos, stuff like that. There would have been no way to prove that Incognito did all these things. Now, all you have to do is snap your fingers, and the whole world knows exactly what's going on wherever. And coaches cannot afford to play hardball with their players anymore. I mean, I feel like that's just a simple reality of the situation. Gase and Shula, yes, Shula too. I don't think Shula would be able to survive coaching in this NFL, because this NFL is, for all the talk about how players are not getting treated fairly, they have way, way, way more power than they have ever had in the history of the NFL. And coaches nowadays, if you don't handle them with kid gloves, they're going to make your life miserable. Now all these players are coming out and saying, this coach did so-and-so, this coach did this to me, this coach over here did this to me, and I'm so upset about so-and-so here. Le'Veon Bell is, you were talking to me a little bit about him before the show started. Le'Veon Bell, he may not be handling it right as far as general business goes, because he's doing it on principle more than anything else, but he's making it really hard on his team right now, and he's making everybody know, I feel like I should be paid a lot more than I'm being paid or being offered to get paid, and I'm not going to do anything until I get justified. And a lot of people are on his side. This sort of stuff doesn't get out as easily back then, and you can afford to play hardball with players back in the old days. You can't do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore. And the Earl Thomas thing over this weekend just cements that for Bell, because as you know, I don't know, we talked about it on our show, and I don't know if you knew about it, but Kansas City had a trade in works. He was getting ready to get traded to Kansas City, which in a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans' minds, having Earl Thomas in that secondary would have put them over the top defensively too.
Oh no, they would have won the Super Bowl, Doug.
Oh, exactly. But what happens? He goes to that crap field in Arizona, which everybody's complaining about because that field is horrible for that stadium, and breaks his leg.
That's Arizona bad.
And breaks his leg. So you feel for the players in a way, and Bell's sticking to his guns. And like you said, it was divided. Now people are starting to look and go, oh wow, wait a minute. Okay, so. Hindsight's 50-50, and you're absolutely right. It's different. I grew up in the era of the Shula. I was a kid at the time, but I mean, I remember the two-a-days. I remember, you and I live down here. It's 110 degrees. Those guys, you never saw cramps. I mean, talk to Kim Bocamper. Have a conversation with Kim Bocamper. He'll tell you stories that you'd be like, I mean, there's players heat stroking, throwing up. You never see that nowadays, ever. It's a different era, and you won't. The Coughlins, the Shulas, they're all gone. It's a different era, and like you said, these coaches, now, and it's a win now league. You don't have these long set coaches. I mean, teams are ready. Look at us. The
Bengals. Everybody wants Marvin Lewis out. He's been there for how long?
And we still don't know what he's got on the ownership. Come on. That's the biggest joke in the NFL.
But either way, it's like, but he's got the longevity. I think he's, besides Belichick, it feels like he's the longest tenured NFL coach out there right now.
It's just not us. It's not the Dolphin fan. It's every fan base. I mean, I have 31 girls, reporters for us. I mean, it's everywhere. The Seahawk Twitter fan base right now is a hot mess.
It's a dumpster fire. Are they ready to cut? Are they ready to move on from Russell Wilson?
Trade Wilson, fire Pete. I mean, they're getting the same things. I mean, it's like I said, when you win, everybody loves each other. When you lose, oh boy, watch out. But we're 3-1. I see your point. Like I said, but I think it is. I think there's things that people are cautious with. Long term Dolphin fans. I just think they're ready. I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready to see this breakout season. I'm ready to see these play calls. I mean, I'm disappointed. I like sit here and lie to you and tell you, I know I'm 3-1 and I'm still a little disappointed, but I'm disappointed in other aspects of it. I want to see our draft picks. I love Fitzpatrick, Mika, what he's doing. Gesicki's bothering me. I just really down that. Harris is freaking me out because I don't even hear his name called.
Charles Harris is going to I'm sorry. I'm sure Ron is going to come after me later because Ron loves to pick on me.
You're going to say it, aren't you? You're going to say it.
You know what I'm going to say?
I know what
you're going to go ahead and say it for me. Say it. Louis. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. I can hear Ron coming, Mr. Robert whatever. He changed his name back, but it's like, Charles. Look, man. Every team has their fair share, and we're just Miami's hypersensitive. Everything that doesn't turn out to be a superstar is a bust. Devontae Parker is a disappointment. He's been a disappointment, but he's not a bust. A bust is somebody who does nothing. Parker hasn't done nothing. When he's healthy, he's on the field. He's doing stuff. He does do stuff. But the problem is that he's always hurt. He's kind of like he's a more productive Yatil Green. So I guess in that regard, he's not really a bust, but he's been a disappointment. Harris has done nothing. And I hate to say it. It's just 2 years in his career. This is only his second year in the league, and already we're calling him that. And it's in that regard, you kind of feel bad, but at the same time, it's like, well, you should be at least contributing a little bit. You're a first-round draft pick, right?
We should hear your name being called at least.
Some point. And it's like, and all the guys who were supposedly in his way are gone now. There's like Andre Branch is hurt, William Hayes is hurt. They're both going to be out Hayes is going to be gone for the season, but Branch is out still. So Harris should be getting more snaps, and I think Travis put out one GIF of him something good. It's like, hooray! We still didn't hear your name called, but I mean, yay, you did a thing, I guess. Yay, hooray! But here's the problem with Gesicki, though. Misuse, Lisa. This is the same thing we got into with Michael Agnew all the way back then. Joe Philbin and apparently Adam Gase with the same syndrome. And here's something else that's wrong with the Dolphins is that player evaluation and use. Mike Gesicki from day one, we knew he was bad at blocking. He blocked me on Twitter over saying he was bad at blocking. And it's like, he can't do it. But what is Gase making him do? They're making him block. And you know why I think they're making him block is because for all the talk that we have about the offensive line and how strong it was, I don't think they're confident in their ability to pass protect. I don't think they are. And that was the exact reason why I knew that Marquise Gray, at the very least, Marquise Gray was going to keep his starting job because Gray can block. He can block, and that was why he was going to remain the starter because of his blocking ability. And it didn't surprise me in the slightest that A.J. Derby was up above Gesicki on the depth chart, and he got more playing time than Gesicki did because also, unlike Gesicki, even though he's not as good as Gray is, Derby can also block to some extent. Gesicki cannot. So one might ask the question, well, why isn't Durham Smythe in there since he's supposed to be the blocking guy? Smythe hasn't been blocking that great either. So Gesicki is Jimmy Graham, right? He's Jimmy Graham.
Yeah,
he's a glorified wide receiver. He's a really tall wide receiver. So you need to, if you want to find him success, you have to use him that way. Stop trying to make players something that they're not.
Yeah, but they're only throwing the ball to him like 2 or 3 plays in a game. I mean, throw the ball up to the kid. Give the kid a shot. Let the kid. I mean, that's the whole purpose. I mean, how many catches does Gronk catch with the guy draped all over him? This is what this kid should be doing. I mean, this.
They send Gronk out on routes. They don't make him pass block every play.
Oh, I'm like, come on. I think that's my biggest issue right now, honestly, is just like Gesicki. I just kind of thought that, it's almost like we're using him as a decoy,
Maybe they are, but you know what? If that's the whole point of a decoy is that you actually have to believe that there's some kind of threat there. If they never use him as anything other than a blocker, nobody's going to believe it. They have to throw him the football. They have to send him out on a route every once in a while. They have to, and they have to actually give him the football. That's the other problem. Maybe it's because Tannehill locks onto one receiver and he doesn't look around. That's something that it has been a legitimate concern his whole career and still is to some extent, because he could have seen Kenyon Drake in the middle of the field on a dump off, but he threw it deep to Albert Wilson in double coverage anyway. Going for the big play. He was being aggressive, folks. Look what being aggressive gets you. Like you don't know what you're asking.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being aggressive and being kind of, okay, that was not a very smart thing to do. I mean, if I've got Parker one-on-one, or I've got Chance one-on-one.
Threw it deep. It didn't. But that's the point, is that if you're going to use a player, you have to use him in the way that they are suited. Everybody knows that Gesicki is a pass catcher. And I don't understand the logic in trying to make people believe he's not. Everybody knows he's not. Every once in a while, he'll do a decent block. He'll do something good. It's like, hey, good for you, Gesicki. You put a good block on that guy. Congratulations. Now, can you do it the rest of the game? No? Oh, oops. And that's where the frustration is. I can't blame Gesicki for struggling because they're using him in a way that he's not built for. He was never a blocker.
I'm putting him in the middle. I mean, and those catches that he gets are great catches, and he gets jacked up, and the momentum gets going, and then you don't hear from the guy the rest of the game.
So again, blame you blame Tannehill, you blame Gase, you not blame.
I go play calling on that. I go play calling because it's like you've got to give these guys. It's just like the running backs. I mean, if you're giving the ball off to Drake and he's hot, you keep feeding him the rock. You don't pull the guy off the field and then let Gore have the next 4 series. I mean, you got to stay with the player who has the momentum. And that one play he hit Gesicki, he got the first down. The whole crowd was like into it. We never heard from Gesicki again. I don't understand that stuff. I don't, is it like, okay, Gase trying to overthink it again, going, okay, well, they know we're going to go to him. I don't know. But the kid, give the kid a shot. If he's one-on-one with the linebacker, I'm taking that all day. I'm audible into that all day long. And that's what they do with Kiko. Look what look at Darren Carr. Cook gave us problems. Tight ends give Kiko problems when they're in pass coverage. And you said that. Everybody knows that. It's not a secret. Is Gesicki not a threat to where you can put a linebacker on him?
Or not send him out on a route at all. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. I think with this offense is him. I had really high hopes that we were really going to open that middle of the field up with him.
Let's go back to Charles Clay, all the way back then when Clay was still a Dolphin.
We used Clay like crazy. Gase always used Clay.
No. Philbin was Gase. Clay was gone by the time Gase showed up.
Was he?
Yeah, but that's
kind of the Wildcat days, right?
Charles Clay was the Joe Philbin era, and he is literally the only tight end that Ryan Tannehill has ever had any chemistry with whatsoever. That he was actually able.
Clay was crazy good,
but they used him. I don't understand. But that's where I find the lack of logic. They actually used Clay, and Tannehill had a rapport with him, and it was awesome. And reached the point where he was going to start looking for a big contract because he was making incredible plays as a result of Tannehill's ability to get the ball to him. But
wasn't Gase known for that in Chicago? Didn't he
with Julius Thomas and Peyton Manning, though, because that's the difference. Peyton Manning is Peyton Manning. Ryan Tannehill's not Peyton Manning. I don't think anybody would ever try to say he is Peyton Manning. That's just it. Maybe that's Gase's biggest problem, is that he's trying to run a system that worked with the most cerebral quarterback in NFL history with somebody who is cerebral but not. He doesn't have a forehead the size of Kentucky.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's the biggest issue, is that the Dolphins are trying to be something that they're not. But if that's the case, then what are they? What are the Dolphins? The idea of an identity is something that has been missing ever since the Dolphins.
You get the identity to me around games 4 and 5.
What kind of an identity are you going to? Somebody told me that their identity is having no identity. I'm like, that's a paradox. That's a paradox. It doesn't work. You can't have an identity by having no identity.
My identity for this team is to keep it close all game long and give yourself a chance to win at the end of the game. That's the identity I would love to have for this game. I would love to have that for this team. I would love to be competitive in every single game and give our offense a chance to win. That's kind of my set. I would love to go into Cincinnati. Everybody loves the blowout. I would love a blowout so I could relax and I don't have a lump in my throat and I'm pacing and kind of, nervous and watching. I mean, that's me. I would like that. Everybody would. I don't think it'll happen because it never does.
Yeah, live tweeting for me is brutal because it's like,
I know, right?
Either we're getting blown out or I'm like constantly feeling the urge to get up and walk around, but I have to stay to my computer.
Yeah. So I mean, that's to me. I think that's a good identity to have. Is just to give yourself a chance at the end of the games. And when you look at that blueprint, that was in 2016. We were in those games and we pulled 4 or 5 of them out.
That was after 1-4.
Exactly. And so I think that we can do that. That's the identity I am envision. Tannehill getting it back, this offense getting their act together, I don't even care if it's balanced. I am not a big, this offense needs to be balanced. I think you can set the run up with the pass. I think you can spread everybody out. I'd love to see Gesicki get involved in this offense. It's almost like, and I don't know if you feel this way or other fans feel, I'm almost waiting for Gase to pull out the playbook and just go, wow, we've never seen that. There's the Gase we were waiting for. That's kind of what I'm waiting for.
I believe that was what we saw in Oakland. The ooh, shiny. It's like that was genius
ready.
Gase. That was genius Gase.
I want that young Gase. I want that young offensive brilliant mind that apparently he was brought here for.
He was supposed to be a genius. Peyton Manning said so, but maybe that's just it. Maybe Maybe what we need to stop doing is that we need to stop taking endorsements from superstar players seriously. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers credited Joe Philbin. What did Joe Philbin do? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Peyton Manning credited Adam Gase. What has Adam Gase done? Absolutely nothing.
And I don't doubt the guy works hard.
Maybe
because I watch him. I mean, you watch him. I mean, he has constantly got. I don't doubt that. No coach wants to lose. Come on, let's be honest.
He's not lazy. No,
he's not. I mean, the guy, he almost like he has the formula. He's getting the pieces. I mean, look at Albert Wilson. I mean, I'm sorry, but Albert Wilson is what he wanted. He wanted Landry to be Albert Wilson because Albert Wilson does everything. And that is a Gase player right there. The guy's fast. The guy, can do everything. That's the players that I think he wants on this team to run this offensive genius calls that he has. But I mean, like I said, I'm ready. I just still am. And I guess that's my fault is every game, I just don't see it. I see the same thing. Bubble screens, run, penalty. I mean, it's lumdrum. It's like the same old thing. It's like, I'm ready to see some flash. I love the long ball. I love Tannehill's long ball when he can get the time and he's dropping them on the dime. He's getting good. Read the coverage, get the one-on-one, find your matchups. Let's get Devontae Parker healthy because I still think, like you said, I still think he's serviceable. I mean, the guy, seems like when he's healthy, he can bring some balls down.
I'm not signing him to a second contract, but you're right.
I don't, you and everybody else, but I mean, maybe we can trade him or get something from him. I don't know. Like I said,
they're not going to trade him.
I always try to find the good in everything. I'm really trying to.
You horrible person, you! How dare you look for the positivity in things? You're supposed to hate everything. I
love this team. I love this team. I love everybody on the team. And like I said, it is what it is. It's this Gase's team, and we have to support it. And like I said, we don't like it, and it's okay. I mean, if you don't think Tannehill's it, I don't have a problem with you. If you think he is, I'm good with that too. I just, like I said, I just want to be there. I just want to be in games. I mean, this when we lose on the road, we lose bad, and that's been the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's worrisome to me. I'm sorry. It's like, okay, I can understand a loss on the road, but we were in there the whole game. It was a great game. People are talking about it. The only thing everybody's talking about Sunday is the Dolphins are trash. The national media is going, I don't ever want to hear about the Dolphins again. Don't you ever?
Mean Stephen A. Smith? Yes,
yeah, that's exactly who I mean. Everybody knows who I mean. And not that I give a crap what he says, but I'm just saying it's still kind of embarrassing. To get blown out like that. I mean, it's like you still want to be competitive, for crying out loud.
Maybe that's the biggest thing, is that what's wrong with the Dolphins, you can't really pin it down. You can point at symptoms, but it seems like no matter what we do to try to fix the problem, the symptoms remain. Defense is still a struggle. This is the thing that's a problem. But somebody asked, like, we need a veteran defensive coordinator. I'm like, before we wrap the show up, before we wrap the show up, let's go into what I had tweeted earlier this afternoon, that people were getting me all negative on me again. It's like, oh, we're 3-1. You don't need to say this. Look, guys, I'm just tired of talking about the same thing. Let's talk about something else. Let's have a hypothetical thing here going, and I'll bring it up to you here now. It's like I said, we know, you and I both know, Gase is going nowhere. Ross is hardcore into doing this, for better or worse. He did the same thing with Philbin. He's not going to not do it now with Gase. So Philbin and Gase both had job security, and they still have job security. Gase has job security. He's not going anywhere. But let's say, just for the record, hypothetically speaking, after this season, Ross gets somebody spits in Ross's coffee, and he's in a very, very bad mood. And you know what? He just feels the need to make some heads roll, and he goes into Gase's office and he says, "You fired!" And he has to get a new coach. Who are you going out there to get? Like, that's the biggest problem for me when people say need a new coach, because you're either going for, when you have these options available, when you have all these options available, you are either going for a retread who got fired for a different reason, see Jack Del Rio, or you're going for somebody who's probably never been a head coach before, and you literally have no idea what they bring to the table. People are looking at Sean McDermott for the Bills, Sean McVay for the Rams. Those picks worked out. They've never been NFL head coaches. They're working out for them for the most part. Not so much the Bills as much as the Rams, but that's just a talent issue. But Gase at one point was the hot guy. You remember that, right? We were so excited. My God, we got Adam Gase. How did we pull that off? And now we're looking at it in hindsight and thinking, how could we have been so stupid as to pick Adam Gase? Really? It's like, but that's who we wanted, I thought. That was the whole point. We fought for Adam Gase. We begged. We were outbidding other teams for Adam Gase, and we got him. And now we wish we hadn't gotten him. So that's the biggest issue that I have with this whole discussion, is that you want somebody else. Who do you want? There's not a whole lot. There's great head coaches are not falling out of the sky. And even if they were, most of the time, these guys are people who had to take their lumps and learn what it took to be an NFL head coach. Bill Belichick, even Bill Belichick himself, he struggled with the Browns, and he got fired before he landed in New England. So even the greatest head coach of all time, although I'm sure that's blasphemy in Dolphins world, but let's put it this way, that's how Bill Belichick is going to be remembered, like it or not, as the greatest. But even Belichick had to learn, fail, and get fired before he became that. But in today's microwave society, there's no time for that. You either get it right in your first 3 years or you are gone. And there are very few coaches, with the exception of McVay, who can be given that distinction. For all the good talk that Sean McDermott is getting or has gotten, this is going to be what? This is his second year. If he doesn't pull the Bills together by next year, they're going to be talking about him on the hot seat. And you know it's true. Yeah. By next year, if the Bills don't get their act together, Josh Allen notwithstanding, they're going to be talking about McDermott as a potential firing candidate. And that is just ridiculous, because we were talking about McDermott as one of the newest, greatest head coaches to be entering the NFL. Could you imagine if Sean McVay, even despite all of the amazing things that he's done already, if the Rams suddenly went on a streak of losing and they couldn't figure out a way to get it done, no matter how much good McVay has done in the past, they're going to be looking at him as a potential firing candidate. they want to kick him out. Pete Carroll has won Super Bowls with the Seahawks, and they want to fire him now. The same goes for, you said it yourself. You have people covering pretty much every single. You have girls covering every single team. They can attest to this. Is that as soon as things start going wrong, you want a replacement because that's going to fix everything, right? No. Who are you going to get? People threw Jim Schwartz at me. I could see that. Maybe Jim Schwartz. Maybe he's learned his lessons now. But he took lumps as a coach in the past.
He's a good defensive coordinator, though.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
he's the best defensive coordinator we know. We wanted him, and he didn't. He said no to us. So we had to pick in Burke because that was what was available. We promoted Burke from because Schwartz told us to buzz off, and so and. People are also telling me Jim Harbaugh, even though he's never going to leave Michigan unless they fire him. So that's besides the point anyway. But it's like, and even then, it's like Jim Harbaugh comes with his own set of problems. So it's not like he's the perfect head coach in the NFL. He didn't. What was the last? I can't remember what his record was the last year he coached the 49ers, but it wasn't
it was not good.
No, it was terrible. So it was terrible, and people turned on Harbaugh so fast. They were talking about him being fired, and I think that was like the year after. Wasn't that like 1 year after they made it to the Super Bowl, or 1 or 2 years after they made it to the Super Bowl? And so quickly, they're quick to send you. They're so quick to send you packing because you're a garbage head coach, you're a garbage quarterback, you're a garbage whatever. The microwave society has to stop. It doesn't work that way. Very rarely does it work that way. Chip Kelly came in and lit the NFL on fire, and he was gone in 3 years. Gone. Nobody liked him anymore. He was gone in 3 years. But
I think we've learned our lesson.
Well, we learned our lesson about Chip Kelly, but the lesson itself that needs to be learned has not been learned. You cannot expect things to go well if you are not willing to stick with it. Everybody makes fun of the Bengals.
But what's the time frame? What is the reasonable time frame now? I mean, my reasonable time frame is 5 years. I'd say 5.
That's what I was going to say. 5 years. I give Gase 2 more years, no matter what.
I say 5 years.
3 years, I give him 2 more before I even start thinking about he needs to go. Because you need time for coaches to learn. Everybody makes fun of the Bengals for keeping Marvin Lewis around for however long they have. And for what, you know what? To some extent, that's justified. Because Marvin Lewis has accomplished very little. They made it to the playoffs a few times, but other than that, not much. Gase made it to the playoffs in his rookie year as a head coach. That has to earn him something. It has to earn him some type of leeway. He's never been a head coach before. He made it to the playoffs in year 1. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Tony Sparano. He made it with the help of Bill Parcells, the old-timey coach, and Chad Pennington, the ultimate game manager at quarterback, because that's what Pennington was. Let's not act like Pennington was a world beater.
Right.
Pennington was an incredibly accurate game managing quarterback who did not make mistakes and would make a play now here and there whenever it was needed, and he had Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams running the rock. Yeah. You know who that sounds like? You know who that sounds like, Lisa?
Who?
That sounds like Ryan Tannehill.
Well, Chad Pennington's shoulder was shot. I mean, if Chad's shoulder hadn't been shot, I think Chad would have had another couple years with us. Like I said, I like Chad Pennington's head. I loved his head. I mean, he was the smartest quarterback I think we've ever had on our roster. That guy was,
got it for a second, but that's what people don't realize is that what was Pennington? He was a game manager. He knew what to do and what not to do. So to some extent, Tannehill has less brain, more brawn, but that kind of like balances out a little bit because Tannehill can make throws that Pennington couldn't. So if you go in that direction, then you have a quarterback who, if you want to balance things out in that sense, you have a quarterback who is Chad Pennington almost. So what did Chad Pennington need to make it to the playoffs besides Tom Brady ACL?
Being out that year, yeah.
But he needed what?
I don't think Ryan needs anything. I think he already proved he can get to the playoffs with Ryan. I mean, Ryan got us to the playoffs. Right. People forget that. Everybody always seems to forget that. In 2016, Tannehill took us to the playoffs. Okay, he did.
A lot. Jay Ajayi helps a lot because their threat of the running game was there. I'll say this. Nobody is afraid of Ryan Tannehill being just Ryan Tannehill and beating you, okay? Nobody is afraid of Tannehill in that regard.
That's where the problem is. That's where you need to change it. That's where you need to change. That's where, like you said, Tannehill needs to come in one of these games and just take the damn thing over and say, you know what? We're going to win. But we're going to throw. We're going to do this. We're going to, it's my dime. I'm doing this. Take control. And I don't know. I don't see it happening. I think, if the play call's there, the play call's there. If it's not, like I said, there's goods and bads with him, like we just talked about. I mean, it's, I have a question. Do you think a quarterback can get a coach fired?
Do I think a quarterback can get a coach fired?
Because that always seems like it always comes up. It always seems like, oh, Tannehill's going to get another coach fired. Okay, what? I've never understood that.
I don't think a quarterback can get a coach fired. I think that a coach gets himself fired by sticking with a quarterback that he should be able to tell is bad. For instance, Blake Bortles. See, Blake Bortles, he's bad. He's a bad quarterback. Somebody had the gall to tell me the other day that Blake Bortles is better than Ryan Tannehill. In what world?
Wow.
Just because he made the championship game? Did you see that Jacksonville defense and how they did it? It wasn't because Bortles was lighting things up. Bortles was not lighting it up. Please give me a break.
But Bortles can have one of those days we just talked about where he's on. He can.
Yeah, he can, but
they're few and far between.
Yeah, few far in between, but that doesn't make, because he has one of those days, doesn't make him better than Tannehill. It just means he had one of those days.
That's crazy.
But Bortles is not a good quarterback. We should know this. We all know this. Anybody who watches him play knows that Bortles is not good. He's somebody that I wouldn't mind having as a backup. How about that? He is essentially a very expensive Matt Moore. How about that? But that's why I was thinking to myself, you know what? If the Jaguars went and grabbed Lamar Jackson, they would have such a dangerous team right now, because Jackson's legs and just having a serviceable arm. If Bortles is inaccurate and he has struggles, and Jackson is also inaccurate, because I have a Ravens fan at my church and he watches Lamar Jackson.
I was going to say,
He's like, Lamar Jackson is ugh, and it's like, okay, but he's young and he's electric and he has a very RG3 feel to him. So if the Jaguars, you went in with Lamar Jackson as their starter instead of Bortles, I have a feeling they would be a lot more dangerous. That's just my thoughts on it. And truth be told, if there was ever a position where you could tell what was holding the team back, with Jacksonville, everything else was so incredible that you had no choice but to come to the conclusion that Bortles was the problem. So I think the only way that a quarterback can get a coach fired is when you can obviously painfully recognize that the one thing that is wrong with the team is the one position where that is under center and you don't do anything about it. That is something that I think can get a coach fired. But if a quarterback is doing well and is having good days and is having more good days than bad, that's the thing is, he had more good days than bad. That kind of a quarterback cannot get a coach fired, because those kinds of quarterbacks are the ones that can win when you have a decent team around them. Bortles needed a once-in-a-lifetime type of team to get to the championship game. Also,
he might have it this year. That defense is pretty tight.
Oh, they had it last year too, and that's what got him to the championship game before the referees bought the last game because Bortles doesn't sell tickets. But for real though, but what was it? Blake Bortles, Nick Foles, and who was the other guy? And also Brady. So it's like, no, we can't have this. I see the referee shaking Brady's hand as soon as the game is over. I'm sorry, there's something wrong here. Like, there's a lot of bogus calls happening. But you know what, though? Here's another thing that could probably get a coach fired. And I know we're running a little bit long here but the discussion is good. So yeah, I was talking to somebody back before the season started, somebody within the Dolphins organization. He was telling me that he had spoken to somebody inside the Jacksonville organization. And what he told me was that the Jaguars had essentially drawn up two separate game plans on defense. One for the first half and one for the second half. The first half was working. The second half it was not. Don't you think it would make more sense if you stick with the first half defense until it doesn't work before switching it up to a second defense and not even knowing if whether it's not a good idea or not. That is the kind of mentality that can and should get a coach fired. You don't need to throw in a new game plan before you realize that the old one's been beaten. If the old one is still working, you stick with it until it's not. Then you go to plan B. You don't start with plan B and then not go back to plan A.
Only thing I could think why you would do that is if you were trying to play a chess match and say, I know this team, I know this coach, we're beating them. This is going to be their second half adjustment. This is my defense's second half adjustment to their adjustment. That's the only thing I can come up with why a coach would do that. Why you would have two separate defensive plans if, A, you have to know that other team, because if you have to know, okay, if we're beating them, let's just say hardball with the Ravens, we're beating the Ravens. Okay, you've been in the Ravens organization. You know coaches in the Ravens organization. Well, I know the Ravens. They're in there adjusting their game plan right now. Okay, defense, we need to adjust the way we play because this is what they're going to make an adjustment to try to beat us. That I can see. But coming in at halftime and telling your defense, okay, we're going to swap to plan B defense now. 2 series, if that defense doesn't work, we're going back to plan A, going back to our base defense, you know? So, I mean, that's the only reason I would see, you know, trying to play a chess match with a team and throwing them off. You know, I mean, it's the old cliche of remember the Titans. You got to throw something at them they've never seen. You know, I mean, that's always what this game's about, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You got to throw it. You got to come up with stuff that teams haven't seen. You know, apparently.
But isn't that Gase's problem? That he keeps trying to find something that they haven't seen before?
But yet we run the same plays.
Yep, that's
how I don't understand that. There's our whole combat. We go right back to Gase's play calling. If you probably record this, you go back and listen to this thing. Where are we always going back to? We're going back to play calls.
Oh, it's going to be recording. Believe me. No, this is
a recording. It's like, okay, let's see if we, you know, let's throw something, which we did, and it worked. We got a touchdown. Did we score off that? Yes, Albert Wilson scored off of it. He threw the touchdown to Grant. That was one of our little trick plays, and it worked. Like you said, we probably won't ever see that play again.
Yeah.
But it worked. I mean, that's what I expected. I guess if I have to think about it, that's what I expected. I don't like trickery. Don't get me wrong. I don't want a gimmick play every time.
That's what I was saying.
I don't want a gimmick play every game, but I'd like to see some new plays. I'd like to see, oh, that's a weird formation. Oh, okay. You know, everybody knows I love spread. I love to spread these teams out. I love throwing the ball. I do. I'm not much of a,
I understand.
I love it.
That's why the NFL keeps making all these new rules, because it's flashy. It's fun.
It is.
It's what makes the money. But
I love it. I love it.
Well, anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and call it here. We've been going for about an hour and a half, and that's usually about as long as our shows last, so I'm going to go ahead and call it here. But so, I don't know, can we recap? Let's see. What was wrong with the team? Play calls. Play calls. So, Gase is the problem right now, and also the fan base. We went back to the fan base a lot.
No, like I said, I think it's frustration.
The Dolphins, and maybe if people stopped complaining so much, it wouldn't be so hard to watch game in and out.
I feel them though. I feel them. I think a lot of fans just really got their hopes up. I do. I think a lot of fans.
I do understand, but we're the ones who have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's part of the social media of what we do. You know, it's but like I said, you have to try to see. You got to weed out you're an idiot and you're a jerk. I mean, you got to weed out those. But most of the fans, you can just kind of tell it's frustration, because like I said, I know, I saw a lot of it. I saw a lot of it all week. It's like, oh, there's no chance we lose this game. I just grip my teeth. I'm like, oh gosh, because I had that lump in my throat,
I believed it. I believed it. But anyway, so yeah. Right now is we can nail down play calling. We can probably nail down lack of creativity on defense, and we can also nail down the fan base. But anyway, so yep, I think we figured out what's wrong with it. Did we actually get around to how we're gonna fix it? Maybe we'll have to do a show.
No, I think we're just gonna have to just say that I think this rebounding, on to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati.
On to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Day off's over. Back to work. On to Cincinnati.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Lisa, for joining me.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Never did get Antwan. That's a little sad, but I don't know. I guess we had issues. I'm gonna have to get my my tech manager, my little brother Joshua, to fix and figure out what's going on with the whole call thing. You know. Okay, quick thing just to complain a little bit more because we haven't done that enough today. Skype is really messing me up, okay? Because I paid for a phone number till people could call in and do. That's why I made it PhinManiacs Live to begin with. So people, but Skype wants me to update to the newest version. And you know what's wrong with the newest version of Skype is that you can't bring in phone calls into a group call. This old version that we have right now is supposed to be able to allow phone calls to join the group chats, which is why I did it that way to begin with, because it's easy to just bring people in. I paid for that. But the new version of Skype, which, by the way, my brother had to downgrade me back down to the old version because I actually had updated it initially. The new version of Skype does not allow that. If somebody calls you on your phone, you have to drop the other call in order to talk to that person, which makes the whole PhinManiacs thing pointless. And that's something
you might have to look into Spreaker.
What's that? Oh, you're gonna. Well, okay. Now you're just gonna have. Now we're gonna have to have a talk after the show. So,
yeah, you might have to do what we do. You know, you can have as many people in there as you want. You know, but like I said, you can use Skype. You can use it through Skype. You can record it through Skype.
All right. Well, I guess then we're gonna have to just we're gonna have to talk about this after. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining us, and I apologize that we didn't get more into the chat room. It's just that the talking was so boisterous tonight.
Intense.
Two of us, they're bringing up stuff like Deion Sins was used. That's true. We want to draft Dallas Goedert. Okay, look, Goddard would have been used the same way Gesicki is, and Gesicki would be catching passes for Philadelphia. So you know what? That's that. So let's go ahead and call it here. Thank you, Lisa, so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You can find her OurTurfFootball. Is that how you say it?
OurTurfFootball.com.
And of course, you can follow her on Twitter at LJ1303. I think that's what it is.
That's it. No?
Yeah. Okay. So hey, I got it without even having to look at it.
You did. You did great.
All right. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all next time for another PhinManiacs Live. Good night.